This season I've started watching Super GT, and in this video I'm going to talk about the first 3-hour race of the season, the Fuji GT 3 hours, and give my thoughts and my reflections on the event. Firstly, the variety of cars is immense. I do love the GT500s. I talked about this when I was talking about the Yokoyama race. But the GT500s are really cool. It would be amazing if a formula like that was more successful on a global scale. I know Class 1 had some successes for a while in DTM, which makes it the second time as many videos that I'm talking about DTM. But there's just something about the way the GT500s are. It's a bit like if you're a kid and you see the GT3s, and then you look back at it growing up. I have a similar thing when you look at, let's say, GT1s, the Aston Martin DBR9, which, for instance, is one of the cars that I've often chose to drive in iRacing. You think, when you see them when you're 8 or 9 years old, that they look absolutely immense. And then you compare it to what you look at it like 20 years later. Whereas the GT500 cars, I feel, have that same kind of allure. That's not to say that the GT3s don't. In fact, the GT300s, the ones that are cars you will only see in Japan, have that same kind of allure to them. A Toyota GR86, for instance, or the Subaru BRZ, the Nissan Fairlady Z, the Lexus LC500H, or even some of the cars that we don't tend to see as much over in Europe these days, like the GTR. It's cool to see some of them popping up outside of what you would, see in an ACC lobby. It's something that's really nice to have, especially when you look at the drivers who are driving them. You've got so many of the best drivers from Japan, but you also have so many amazing talents from the rest of the world. I mean, you got Brits like Harry King, or in the winning car for the GT300, Roberto Merri, who was the ex-Manor F1 driver, Giuliano Alesi, Sasha Fenestraz. And in terms of the storylines, it produces really great action to follow. The use of things like success ballast means that whilst the TGR Team of Toms with Sho Seboy and Kenta Yamashita were still going to be competitive because they're two of the best drivers in Japan right now, they had to battle for that second place in the end. Likewise, you ended up seeing D-Station have the heartbreak twice over, which included a last lap having to go into the pits and losing the win, albeit managing to gain second place again thanks to heartbreak for the R&D Subaru that broke down on the last lap. It's these kinds of stories that you do get in GT racing, but Super GT has a way of being able to create these narratives in a better way. At the same time, there are some elements that may be slightly less successful. For example, in the UK it's on Motorsport TV, which means it's behind a paywall, and whilst the commentary is good and it meets the standard of GT racing, you don't get to access it so easily because it's, like I mentioned, behind a paywall. Another thing that doesn't get promoted as much is the tyre war. I know it is more of a big deal in the GT300s and the GT500s, which is possibly why I don't see it as much. But there are, 4 different tyre brands? You've got Yokohama, you've got Dunlop, you've got Bridgestone, and you've got Michelin. But in GT500, the top performers are always the Bridgestones. Whilst the GT300 had 3 different brands in the top 3, and albeit the top Michelin was down in 16th, the APR GR86, there wasn't as much of a deal made about it when they were talking about the GT300s. Instead, they focused on it in the GT500s, where that battle is essentially non-existent at times. Anyways, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings, those are my observations. I'll probably talk about a couple of these drivers at the end of the month when we look back at the best of list that I've been compiling over the course of this year so far. Thank you so much for watching and joining, folks. Until then, it's bye for now.